What's up? What's up, people? It's been, damn, it feels like forever. Forever. We had to look it up. We were like, when was the last time? Now, we know Talking Dead. That was for the last of Walking Dead Mothership Proper. That was back in November. And then we came back for one episode just to give an update on all the spin-offs and stuff like that. But man, it feels like forever. But here we are, people. We are back. There's going to be nonstop Walking Dead content, right? Because we got Fear the Walking Dead, as you know, is coming to an end. This is the final season. Then we got Dead City. Then we got Norman Reedus running around in Europe. And then whenever the Michonne and Rick Grimes comes about, then we'll cover that. But my name is Adam Vale. I'm an editor over at the Koalition, that's with a K, thekoalition.com. And I'm joined by editor-in-chief of the Koalition.com, Richard Bailey Jr. What's up, Rich?
What's up, Adam? What's up, listeners and viewers?
And Throwdown and family friend, Carlos Romero.
Yo, what's going on, everyone? First time doing a Fear podcast. Not obviously not the first time doing I Am Negan, Don't World Beyond and The Walking Dead proper, but first time with Fear. So it's gonna be interesting.
Gonna be interesting, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that are in the same boat who are like, you know what? This is the last episode of a show that I didn't even know exist. There was somebody that I was talking to over the weekend, and he watched all the Walking Dead. We were talking, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm a big Walking Dead fan." So I was like, "Oh yeah, well, I do this show and stuff, and we're about to cover Fear that comes back this weekend." And he's like, "Fear? What's that?" I'm like, "What's that?" I was like, he didn't know. He didn't know. So he's like, "Oh, I'll find out about it. I'll start watching it." I'm like, "All right, well, there are those people." And for a long time, I didn't think that was possible because if you remember when you watched Fear, when you watched Walking Dead, Fear used to follow right after. Remember, for like the first few seasons or whatever, there was like, "Oh, stay tuned after this," and then after that, you had Talking Dead. So Talking Dead was late night. And then eventually they started moving things around and all that stuff. But I'm still surprised. So I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that are just like, wait, there's a spinoff and the spinoff is coming to an end and it's on season 8? How is this possible? All right. So let's just dive into it. And again, I blanked on this damn name. Rich, what's the name?
Remember what they took from you.
There you go, because I can't even remember the name of this damn title. This is season 8, episode 1. Remember what they took from you. And right off the bat, people, just so you know, it was aired already on AMC, but then you can watch it over on AMC Plus. It's available. And here's the thing. They're spoilers. So if you haven't watched it, just be warned. And I'm sure a lot of these people that are here just returning listeners and viewers. So you guys know how this works. We're going to run down this episode and go into it and give our thoughts. And hopefully they're positive going into the final season here. But right off the bat, this episode felt like the last episode. Like if they were like, "Oh, we're coming back, but not doing a full season, just one episode," then this is it. Because the way it started, the way it progressed to an ending, and then the way it ended, it was like, okay, I'm cool. This is it. We're done. All right, that's a wrap with Dead City. It didn't leave any real questions or any like story-driven narrative that I'm like, "Oh wow, I can't wait till this happens," or "I can't wait to see this and that," and "Where's this guy?" No, I don't. No, we saw all the key characters that we needed to see, and we see where they are, and we see where they want to go, which is nowhere. They're done, as a family. But before I go any further, what did you guys, quick view, what did you think when you're watching this episode, Rich?
After watching this episode, I quickly realized that I am very glad that this show is coming to an end because honestly, I didn't have an issue. We'll get into it when you get into the time jump. I feel like that was when this episode should have started. All the stuff we saw before, that could have been a part of the last season episode, and then this episode could have started with the time jump. But it is what it is. Yeah, but my first reaction is I didn't really enjoy the episode that much, but we'll get into all that. But but when I saw this, I said, you know what? It is a good idea that they're ending the show. Because I think it's very obvious what the direction is now for the remaining episodes. but we'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm. And as you just heard, this is all new for Carlos. Carlos is Walking Dead mothership proper, so really didn't branch out too much into the spinoff realm. So, what did you think, Carlos?
Yeah, like Adam mentioned, I have dabbled on the spinoff front for a little bit. Obviously, I did World Beyond.
Sorry
so we
about
get
that. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I appreciate your condolences. And I did do a couple of seasons of Fear, so it's like the first maybe the first
and we
two,
did that's right, and we did Tales of the Walking Dead
and Tales of the Walking Dead. So, well, I don't know, World Beyond, Tales. I don't know which one's which these days. So yeah, so I did a couple of seasons of Fear, and then I just fell off, and when they did the finale, I I didn't catch up because I didn't have time. But I said to myself, all right, I'll join the guys. I'll watch the last season with everyone, and then just see how it goes. But yeah, as far as first impressions, I have no clue what the hell's going on. But Morgan is there. Is a familiar face, someone I'm used to from not only Fear the Walking Dead previous seasons, but Walking Dead proper. And he has a kid now, so I'm just trying to process everything. He's like, he has a kid, and he's running away from a place, and then there's a twist at the end, and I'm like, oh, so is Morgan going back to being the Morgan that we saw at the hideout in the house when Rick finds him with Carl? I don't know. It's interesting. There's a lot of stuff to digest.
It would have been cool if they would have spliced in some flashback moments, sort of like what we saw in the final season of Walking Dead proper. Remember, they spliced in some old scenes from previous seasons, certain characters in different situations. That would have been great, especially when we get into when Morgan starts explaining, well, I'm not really your dad, and then just like splice in with the walker and the baby strapped onto it, the whole thing on it. It would have been cool. It's like, oh, so just so to refresh people's memories. Or I don't know. It's a lot. It's just a lot because it is the last season, and they're not going to be able to answer everyone's questions. So if someone's just jumping in, I can understand that. It's like, wait, who's this person? Yeah, that guy. Like you said, as a kid,
I don't know where the rest of the crew is. I'm like, there was a lot of people. There was was it Eugene? What's the name?
No. Usually not Victor. Victor Strand was part of that. This crew. I mean, they've had people come and go.
Burnt face. What's his name?
The burnt face.
Yeah.
Dwight.
Dwight.
Yeah, Dwight. Yeah, with Dwight and his wife, and the cowboy dude is dead. Dude is dead. A lot of people died, and it's like season 1 and 2 were awesome. Season 5 was great. I think it was 5 and 6 that had the mass exodus, right when everybody just started boom, 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 leaving, and I'm like, oh, this show's coming to an end.
Here's where I left off. And I don't know what season this is, but it's a season when they're fixing the plane because they landed somewhere and they're trying to get back to it.
Oh, man.
That's where I left off.
Was that after? Yeah, that was after the hotel, when they left the hotel and Travis, his son, died. And I want to say maybe 6. Maybe that was in 6. I don't know. Leave your comments over on YouTube, people, if you remember that, because I'm blanking, but I do remember, because that also had the famous actor, I think it was a Max Headroom dude. Wasn't he in it? I think he was the guy who had the plane or something. But that's funny. There's a plane going by my house now. The plane. Oh man! All right, so let's get into it. As you know, they did a 7-year time jump. This was information that they already had leaked out. Just giving some, and I hate leaks. I hate even when it's official leaks, when the showrunners and stuff like, well, let me give you some insight. That's a big information right there. And so now we already know there's no surprises. So once this episode starts and we see this little girl and she's getting all geared up for combat, we already know We already know. There's not going to be a question of like, oh, whose little girl is that? No, we know who it is. It's Mo. She's 8 years old or whatever. Or no, yeah, she's 8 because she got there at 8. She's 8 years old. And it starts off with she's getting put into like a gladiator battle, very reminiscent of the whole system with bringing the kids like Spartans, where they would bring all the kids and take them from their towns and stuff to build up their army, because that's how they did it. They didn't rely on people just volunteering. They're like, no, that's not how this is going to work. So we just have to just claim the kids. And we find out this is PADRE. This is how it works. They're creating this new society. And by doing this is brainwashing them, right? You grab them while they're young, the kids, so that way you can groom them to be soldiers and well-mannered and trained in whatever they want them to be. And that way they don't have any resistance from parents. So this goes back to last season when Madison was a scout. She was a hunter recruiter for them, pretty much a baby snatcher, right? Because that's how she was introduced, that she runs around grabbing kids for PADRE, right? So here it is. We see that she's about to go one-on-one with a walker. Walker's tied up, got a thing in his mouth, so it can't really bite. And she freezes. And right there, when she froze, is when I froze. And I paused. Because I'm like, you know what? I can't remember anything when I was 1 year old. And don't tell me you're having flashbacks of when you were 1 year old. If you are, that's pretty amazing. How far back can you go? Can you go back to the womb? Because that's this now. I'm sorry. That's just not possible. As far back as I can go is 3 years old. I can remember things at 3. But that threw me off. Because then at one point, I was thinking, well, maybe this isn't Mo. Because I'm like, well, 7 year, 1 year, no, that can't be. This is the curveball. This is a curveball. This is someone that looks like Mo, but not Mo. No, anyway,
it's Rick Jr.
Rick Jr., right? Oh, anything's possible, right? Things have changed. All right, so, but I'm just saying that's the way the world is. So, you could be whoever you want in PADRE, right? So the walker falls on top of Ren, which is her name that they gave her at this, or did she pick her? We don't know. She just
I think it was given to her.
It's probably given to her, right? She's 1 year old. She grows up. Like, what's your name? Your name's Ren. That's it. If Walker falls, there's another person who I guess is the person who's training, who's also a kid. I don't know, maybe in the teens. Says, you're not ready. I told them you were too young. She's like, no, I can do this. I can do this. So they work out some arrangement where she'll do that older teen's chores in exchange for more training time at night. Okay, great. So one of the key points of all of this is that while she's doing the chores, she's cleaning, in one of the locations, she hears one of the canisters that she was cleaning with falls down the stairs. Of course, there's a dark, creepy basement area, and then you hear a voice, and there's a woman there, and that is Madison. She's chained up down there. I was like, okay. All right, so I mean, there was a few other little things that happened also with this. I'm trying to remember, right, even from my notes, because I was still in disbelief with some of the things, and it's just focusing my attention. But the fact that they kept Madison there, because that was one of the things that they opened also with, having Madison down there and showing that they were draining blood. And we find out later, she says they take blood out once a week. What's up with that? Why? What's so special about her blood? This isn't.
I think from what I was asking the same question when I was watching this, I was like, well, what's so special about her? Are they cloning her, or what's going on? I feel like it's just they just have human subjects for blood so they could save and do transfusions if they need to in the future. I think that's the whole purpose.
I mean, it's unless they know something that we don't. If this is like an Ellie situation from The Last of Us, which we also covered over at the Koalition on YouTube and stuff. But yeah, unless there's something special, maybe she got bit and she never turned, and they said, all right, well, we're gonna keep her around, But anyway, we find out she's in there. The little girl knows she's there, and then she later on starts talking to the older one. Says, hey, I know about the person that's trapped there. What's so special? And she tells her that, that was the one that helped escape, the father escape with his daughter. So before I go any further, just from the introduction of Ren and the whole story of how they're setting things up with that, did that make sense to you guys? What about you, Rich? What did you think of that whole intro?
Well, to be quite honest, when I saw it, I didn't know who the girl was because even though it made sense after we saw Madison and then Madison asked, "Well, what's your name?" and then "How old are you?" Then it made sense. But prior to that, there wasn't any words on the screen that said, "Oh, this is 8 years later." None of that. So obviously, like you said, they had the information before where they said it's going to be a time jump. That's fine. But for someone who was watching the show, I'm going to go to the point you made earlier and said we should have had flashbacks. Even we could have had stuff that to show Mo when she was a baby and Morgan holding her, it would have made a hell of a lot more sense for you to say, "Oh, this is who this is." Because a lot of people, they got to also account for the fact that some people coming into this show, they are coming in to watch the final season because it's the final season, which means they don't really remember or know what happened in the previous seasons. So it would have been great to have some of that stuff in there to draw people's memory or to get them caught up. Even when they had the recap of previously on Fear the Walking Dead, none of this stuff was in there. So I kind of feel like that was a misstep to not have that information in there. But up until this point, I was intrigued to find out more about this character, but I did not know what the hell was going on in the show.
Yeah, I mean, the only part, and that was the thing, there was also that little segment at the beginning where you see Morgan and he was in one of the cells and they're interrogating him and the whole thing. And then Madison comes in and then she helps. She was like, "Don't worry, I promised I was going to help you get out and you're going to get Mo out, blah, 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 blah." But then, we got what we got now, seeing with the little girl growing up and stuff. And we're instantly putting two and two together within like the first 10 minutes. I was like, well, clearly she didn't escape with Morgan because here she is. And then Madison is down there. So there's no surprise. So we're not even a half hour in and we already have all these pieces put together. And it just, oh man, it was kind of upsetting.
One thing I was wondering, and obviously I have a lot of questions. I'm like, who the hell is this PADRE guy? So what's the history with that guy? Is it just always been this figure, shadow leader from the community always?
Well, that is a great question, Carlos, because we don't even know who the hell PADRE is either. They kept referencing PADRE as
it was seasons. It was last season, beginning of last season, right? It was because it was when the nuke happened. The nuke, and then it was in the government bunker. One of the politicians was in a bunker, and apparently they had heard over their radio comms of an area called PADRE that was a safe haven, and that's where they were going to try to get over to. And that's where Madison's daughter was trying to constantly tell everybody, "We got to go to PADRE, got to go to PADRE," and nobody knew if this place even exists. So that was the thing. So we don't know at the time. We didn't know if it was a place or a person.
Exactly. And let me just add and say this right now. You mentioned the nuke. We mentioned season 5, 6. There were some issues last season also towards the end. But with all due respect, everything that they have done with the show from a writing standpoint, it just felt like it was better in the previous seasons than this season so far. Obviously, we're only one episode in, but you had the cult stuff that they've done in the past. I mean, all that stuff felt like it was a much better, promising storyline. This does not feel the same way. Now, obviously, that could change, but the first episode, it just doesn't feel the same. And I think that's why I said I'm glad that the show is ending because it feels like they're running out of ideas.
Well, and then they pulled again a lot of scenes of just them talking, and we had to fill in the blanks, like during that interrogation part, right? Where again, when they were flipping, well, they only did a few back and forths, and when they did that one where Morgan was in interrogation, and we found out it's PADRE, it's a person that was talking to him. And he was like, "Oh," the Morgan saying, "Oh, did you find all the rafts?" Remember, he was like, "Yeah, we found not as many people as you said there were, but enough that could fit our needs." Okay, what's their needs? I don't know, because I thought it was just kids they needed, but whatever. And he's like, "Oh yeah, did you find all these people?" And the whole big thing. But he had to fill in that. It would be nice to have seen a bunch of rafts everywhere and see where they're floating to. And we know that they're on an island now. Because before, when that ended of last season, it looked like they were just going to a ship. So for a while, I thought PADRE was just like a big ship. And that's it. That's where they were living. And it makes sense because then they can just always be on the move and go to different areas. But no, it's an island. But yeah, I'm sure for anyone who has never watched Fear and only watched Walking Dead, then just seeing Morgan is like, oh, he's on this show. You know, who else is on this show? You know, and so we'll see. All right, so there goes that part. So she says, now we get back with the rent situation. And again, this feels rushed. A lot of these things feel rushed because she goes back down there because after the girl, the person that's training her, the teenager, tells her the backstory. Oh, that's the woman that helped these people escape, and they're the only ones that ever escaped. And she killed a whole bunch of soldiers by herself, and this whole big thing. And it's like, oh, okay. And so she decides, let me go down there. I'm going to ask her to help train me. That what? How is this going to work? And it's like, you know, of course she does something dumb, and then she opens up the gate because the whole thing was pointless. Because then, of course, Madison gets out and then notices that she has a mark on her arm. Again, stuff that we don't know. It would have been great if they filmed something like that to show when that accident happened, but we don't. So she says, oh, wait, how is this possible? Like, what do you mean? What do you mean? My name is Ren. What are you talking? No, your name's Mo. I know because of that injury in your arm that happened the day that you escaped with your father when we were trying to get out. It's like, what? You know what I mean? It's like, all right, whatever. But then she's like, you know what? We're going to get you. I'm going to get you out of there. And then she fights some guards. She kills them. They get on a boat. And then that's it. They're off the island just like that. So that right there just felt rushed. It just didn't. I don't understand the need to put that narrative around of like, oh, she's been trapped here, or if anything, they could have just had where she was sneaking back on the island to try to, you know, still figure something out. I don't know. I just don't like the way they set this whole thing up, and then to have Ren just say, you know what, here's this secured prisoner, so apparently the most dangerous one, and no one's watching her, and anybody can just walk on down there. Yeah, which sort of, I mean, hell, even when Negan was locked up for 6 years, remember back at Alexandria, they had it like a shed, like it was chained off and stuff, you know, and there was always somebody on the top watching. No, that's not the case here. That's not the case here. I don't know. It didn't do much for me, but I don't know about you. What about you, Rich? Because you're familiar with it. Did this make sense? This whole, all right, this is how Ren gets Madison out. This is how Madison escapes, and that her goal now is to just head off the island and bring Ren to find Morgan wherever they are.
Oh no, I agree that this felt rushed. I obviously they had a point in this storyline to progress it, and of course, as a viewer, when you see this happening, you're wondering, okay, so how is Morgan going to be connected to this? All the other characters. So obviously, I guess they wanted to get through this as quick as possible so that they can show you what happens next. So I guess it's okay, but yeah, it did feel a little bit rushed, no doubt about it.
And again, with Carlos, I just imagine you just get question marks. Like, where are you going with this kid? Where you're getting on a boat to go where?
Yeah, I'm the thing that I was thinking about was like, why did this kid do all the things that she did? You know, like she obviously, like the whole thing that they're trying to set up is, oh, this character, I forgot her, Lark. I forgot what they called her.
Yeah. Well, we'll say Madison. We know her as Madison. I don't care because there's a lot of silly names.
Yeah, Madison took out over 12 soldiers with a sledgehammer. She's like, oh, I want to get better, and I want to learn from, I guess, the master. And I'm like, well, isn't your problem that you fear, no pun intended, you fear and cower at the sight of walkers? It's not that you are not, you know, capable for being an 8-year-old. It's just, you know, whenever you see walkers, it brings up this trauma from the past.
Yeah, she freezes, and that's the only time we get any weird flashbacks. And I'm surprised she could even remember that. That's the other thing. It's like, what?
And she does a really dumb thing by, you know, giving her the hammer and all that stuff. But it's an 8-year-old, so you can understand. But then again, throughout the episode, she proves that she's way smarter than whatever the hell age they're trying to portray her as, because she was like the wise one, and then she's the competent one when takes out the walker at the end of the episode. So it's just all over the place. Either you're an incompetent 8-year-old, or you're a huge overachiever, which it seems like they're trying to play at both sides here.
And for a place that seems very strict and they have a lot of rules and guidelines, they let this 8-year-old roam free. It's like, go ahead, wander around late night and go down into that tomb area there and go talk to our most dangerous prisoner, whatever. Maybe we could just say the reason why she was down there is because she was doing the chores. Because remember, that was the other thing. She was doing the chores of the older teenager. And I think that was her thing at night. Because remember, they were training at night, the extra time. So that's when she told her the whole backstory of Madison. But still, it didn't add up. But whatever. The whole point is, and then if I really want to look into it, which I try not to go too into it. If you remember, Madison said she didn't even know where PADRE was. This was last season. That there was this something that they contacted through the walkie, and they were pretty much type of a blackmail type of thing. Like, hey, you got to keep doing this, and then we'll help you get to your kids. She didn't know that both her kids were, Nick and the daughter had already died at that point. Well, the daughter was still alive, but then she died at the end of the last one. But Nick was long gone. And that's what they were holding over her head to go and kidnap kids and stuff. But she told Morgan, remember, I don't know where this place is. They just show up on a boat and I meet them at the boat dock there. But that's all out the window now, because she knows exactly where she is, because then she knows where to go. And so she gets to a dock, which doesn't seem too far off. And she has an oxygen tank. So we see that she does have a breathing problem. And that was still from the last season. She had this oxygen tank. And that all has to do with the fire at the baseball field, because she's one of the characters, like a novella, that had died, or we thought was dead, for many seasons, and then came back. So you see them, they're walking through the swamps. Ren's asking all these questions. Why are you doing this to me? I want to go back. She's like, no, I made a promise to your dad and your mom, and this and this and that. I was like, I know what you're talking about. And they're going through this swampy area. And she says it makes sense. Like, we're going to the swamp. No one's going to follow us here. And she grabs the walkie. She hits Madison's oxygen tank to damage it. And she gets in the walkie, starts saying, it's me, Ren. Come get me. Come get me. And the whole thing. And she grabs it back. It's like, shut up, little girl. But it's so comical, because it's like, I would think if I'm an 8-year-old and this has happened, and this person says they know my parents and they can bring up certain things, and I'm having these weird visions. Let's call it that, visions, because you can't remember anything from 1 year old, and she can't explain it. It's like, well, you know my parents? Wait, maybe I should stick around if I'm gonna actually beat my parents. Maybe there could be more to it. I don't know. That felt a little bit too wishy-washy, but that all got blown out once out of nowhere, because of the walkie activity. Right, that's when they're getting into a conflict with some walkers, and then who shows up but Morgan, aka Nightingale. That's his name now. I'm not calling him Nightingale. I'm sorry. I'm not doing that. I don't understand this. But it comes to save the day, and she's like, "Who's that?" And it's like, "Oh, that's your father." And he was like, "What are you doing there, Madison? What's this?" And it's like, "Oh, I told you I was going to do it. What happened? I thought you made it off." And there's a whole big thing, and they're having a conversation. Morgan hasn't aged a day. And I'm thinking, if you're going to do a time jump, 7-year time jump, I'm telling you, look, I don't look like I was 7 years ago. I got long hair. I used to shave my head. Do something. Give him some crazy look. Give him some crazy look. I know you don't want to do the dread thing because you already did it with Ezekiel, but do something. Make him grizzled, long beard, or something. He's living in the swamp. This man is living in the swamp. Nope. And then what does he do? Grabs his walkie, calls people, PADRE, found them, bringing them back. Meet me at the docks. That's it. Go to commercial. That's supposed to be the shocker right there. Rich, what did you think when you saw your boy Nightingale?
Well, I thought to myself they need to explain this because it doesn't make any kind of sense. I do agree with all the time that has passed. They should have done something different with Morgan to make him look different. I know he had some gray hairs in his beard, but no, I think they could have did a hell of a lot more than that to show that this much time has passed. But yeah, my first reaction is, well, they definitely need to explain why he is now working for Padre. That was my first reaction.
All right, Carlos, this was your boy. This is your only connection to Walking Dead proper. What were you thinking?
Yeah, I was disappointed because I was thinking, okay, Morgan is the through line throughout this whole spinoff. He's a badass. He went through the dumps in The Walking Dead proper and surpassed that and elevated past the trauma that he had and the depression and all that stuff that he went through. And now he's one of the unshakables of sort of this series. And then just seeing the beginnings, like, oh, Morgan's gonna leave with his kid somewhere. All right, cool. And then the whole time jump happened, and then I was confused about what was going on. And then going fast forward to this part where it's they're doing this whole thing, and then he's revealing himself as being complacent to Padre and this stuff, and I'm like, really? So I was I was kind of disappointed. I was like, maybe Morgan is just unshakable now. He's just he's been through so many battles. He's been through so many bad realities and stuff, and he's probably going to persevere from this. And he probably will at the progression of the season. But I was just disappointed that he just for 7 years he was complacent with his own child, not knowing who he is or his other parent.
Yeah.
Which was kind of, I'm like, man, that's like going back and Luke Skywalker not wanting to do something, you know.
Yeah,
It's weird.
it's and it's just it gets even stranger. This whole thing gets even stranger because what I was thinking is like when I saw this, like I think I know where this is going, and I'll get to it when it happens because I saw it. Once this happened, I'm telling you, I didn't think it was anything other than what I'm assuming, and it's what actually happened. So anyway, we get back to them, and they're traveling through, and he's like, "All right, we got to get you out of here," and the whole big thing, and then, as they're trying to navigate, more walkers come around because of the noise that they were making, and they head to his little boat. And that's one thing that I always liked about Fear is they have pretty interesting set designs. They've always taken them to weird places, whether it was a dam or a little lighthouse island or the hotel, or what was it, that area in the south during a flood, and everybody was like in little plots of land and then had to try to swim or take little boats across. I mean, they've been very creative with a lot of these locations. And then here it is, a houseboat. This is where Morgan's been living, this little houseboat. And so he's trying to get them over there. They get to the little houseboat, and one of the first things, and I found it funny too, is that out of all the things they have for all these years, he has the Walkman that they used to put on Baby Mo. And they would have the Grease. She recorded herself doing like a little lullaby and stuff like that. And so that way she wouldn't hear all the screams and all that stuff from when they were fighting and doing things. And that was during the flashbacks of the zombies that we would see. She would hear that voice and freeze. And she finds the tape and she puts it on, and it works. They got a charger somewhere for this thing. I don't know where. Yeah,
There's a lot of AA batteries right now.
There you go. Yeah, on this houseboat in the swamp, anything's possible. Yeah, maybe he found stuff. I don't know, but I just
7 years, it's a long time to find stuff.
It's true. I mean, that's the same question I always have with Guardians of the Galaxy and that tape cassette player that he has. Same thing. I don't see any USB ports. That's not even one that can charge that way. That takes a proprietary charger. I don't know if you still have that. There's no Radio Shacks around, but that's
Got the Pro Stick Duo as a memory card.
You see, that's what I'm saying. I got a lot of questions, no answers. So, of course, all these walkers are coming, and now they're rocking the boat. Literally, it's like rocking the boat, the whole big thing. they're like, all right, we got to get out of here. So there's only one path. Then they jump out. And then, of course, she gets her foot stuck again. She got stuck before in the swamp, which is how Morgan showed up. And now they get stuck again. She's about to, there's a walker getting close. She has her weapon ready. And then again, the flashbacks, she freezes. All right, Morgan helps her out. It's like, what's going on with you? What's happening? It's like, clearly that whole thing of, oh, I've been trained. I know how to defend myself. That's all. BS. We know this because we just watched how she froze back at the PADRE area. So they're getting swamped. Madison still having the breathing problems with the damaged air tank. She's still on the boat and she starts making all the noises. She was like, I'm going to lure all of them. This is it. She's going to die. This is what we're thinking. And if I remember right, because this part I didn't write down, I don't know why. I think I was just so mad that this even happened. If I'm correct, Rich and Carlos, is this when Grace shows up and she takes out some of the walkers and helps them out? And she says, like, who is this? Like, oh, this is my mom. She was like, I'm your mother.
That's correct.
You see,
and let me just add this point and say this. Let me just say this. The whole thing of Madison sacrificing herself, we have already seen that on this show. And that's why I said, oh, they're definitely running out of ideas now. Obviously, she got saved because I guess they still have a purpose for her, because you can't bring this actress back on this show and have her die in the first episode of the new season. That wouldn't make any kind of sense.
Yeah, but, especially when she showed up at the tail end of the last season.
Exactly.
Yeah. But on one hand, I thought this would be the best way for her to die, because then she could say, with the whole treasure, oh, I fulfilled my goal, my oath. I said I was going to bring you together. Oh, and then she dies from all the bites. And then she turns and she no longer needs an oxygen tank. And then they put a rope around her and they keep her as a pet. There you go. That's how she stays on the show. Makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
What you going to say to me, Carlos?
So I have a question about this whole thing. I don't remember what Madison's relationship has been with Morgan and stuff.
They had just met recently, last season.
And that was last season, right?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm just trying to think, like, her whole goal was to get them together and to leave. And obviously it did work because they left. But then she's like still motivated by it, even though it's 7 years later, and even though Morgan was the one that effed it up. So
I mean, that's what I'm saying. There's a lot of questions even when they first showed up to that island again, and Rum's like, "What do we do?" He's like, "Well, this is where, your dad said we were gonna meet, and this is where I'm bringing you." 7 years. You think he's still hanging around this swamp area? Probably moved on. He's like, he probably figured they weren't coming back.
So what happened in the last couple of seasons that's made Morgan and everyone just be like this? Or do you guys feel? And
no, that's nothing. That didn't happen. That's not how this ended. That's the thing. The last season did not end leading to, this is how the mindset of Morgan. No, this all gets answered within like the last 5 minutes or 10 minutes of this episode. Because that's it, right? That's the question you're asking. It's like, what happened? What's going on? And then once we cut back and we see that with Grace and Morgan and Ren and Madison, and then Ren and Madison's like, "Oh, you working with them too?" Talking to Grace. I'm like, "Yeah, she was. I work at the Watchtower, right?" And it's like, "Wait, what's going on here?" And then earlier I brushed over, but just because it all makes sense when we put all this together, what's going on is that when they did escape, then they realized life was hard. They were having all these issues. It was Grace, Morgan, and the kid. And then PADRE came to save them when they were getting swamped, sort of like by Walker, sort of like the situation at the houseboat. And they said, "Listen, we don't want you, but we will take this kid and give this kid a better life than what you can. Because look, you guys are barely surviving." And so he agreed. And he doesn't know where everybody else is. He knows they picked up some people, but he doesn't know where Victor is, and he doesn't know where Daniel and some of the other key characters are. They could be PADRE, they could be still drifting on a raft and maybe went somewhere else. And that's something else that Fear likes to do, because it does have a fairly large cast. They split them up. Last season we had like 3 different shows going on in one. Remember Rich, remember we had the ones that we're still doing with the Civic Republic because of the helicopter thing, and then we had other ones that were hiding in bunkers
Yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like it was the self-contained episodes focused on a few characters,
Mm-hmm.
and then eventually they brought it together. So I will say that I actually think that that would have been a good idea for this, because now that there's a time jump, there is going to be interest to see what happened to the other characters. But I don't know how they're going to do this, because the central focus of the story is about basically getting Ren back to her parents. I mean, I think that's going to be the gist of the entire season. So that's what my guess is, but we'll see.
But this is why, and I joked at the beginning, I was like, this could have been the whole season. It's one episode. That's it. They could have just ended, because then while they're having this conversation back and forth, and then Ren was like, you know what? I think you're right. Whoops, got my mom here, got my dad here. I want to stay here. I'm not leaving. Right. And Morgan's like, what? No, you have to go. What do you think? And then he just looked at her. I'm not even your real dad. She's not your real mom. Your real mom. And he mentioned the people that were back in that cavern, that area. I already blinked on their name, but remember there was those two. And they're gone. So he's right. He's like, we were just taking care of you, and we failed at that too. But these people, look at you. Look at you, nice and clean and stuff. You learned how to fight, I guess. You seemed okay. So it's like that's the better for you. Look how we're living. And then that's when we found out that his job, which I don't know why he decided to keep this job, because what is that the agreement? They're not. I don't think they're paying him. Maybe they're giving resources just to live, and I doubt this is like a blackmail type thing. Like, if you don't keep doing this work, we're going to kill her. I doubt that's the case. But his whole thing is, his job is sort of like what Madison was doing, but instead of kidnapping them, he said he would work out arrangements. Like, he would talk to these people that were in dire situations and say, hey, listen, I can't save you, but I could save your kid. I could put your kid. And what, they just take his word for it? He could be a cannibal eating them. It's like, but that made no sense when he explained how he's taking these kids and bringing them to PADRE. I was like, oh, that doesn't make any sense. And so Grace is also part of this. They don't really mention if they're together, or because she said, oh, I heard the chatter in the walkie. So she came over also because she heard all the stuff going on. She was like, oh, PADRE's on their way, because she also called in. I was like, this doesn't really make much sense. But then he, after they give their whole reasoning, we can't support you, we can't help you, this is it, you got to go. And it's like, there goes that, and then PADRE, the people show up, and we're like, all right, they're going to kill Madison or whatever. And he says, no, we still have a need for you. They take her and they take Ren, and then they're out. So before we go to the final scene, did that whole story, because that's pretty much it. We got all the answers that we needed in that last conversation between Ren, Grace, and Morgan. Did that make sense to you, Carlos? Did they put any of the pieces together in your puzzle in your brain, or it was still confusing because it felt rushed?
It makes sense in general. There's a lot of pieces that I'm still, I still don't know, because a lot of the stuff I'm not too familiar with and the characters. But the overall sense of what's going on, it all makes sense. And talking it with you guys and just thinking about what I just watched, everything makes sense of why it happened. Like you mentioned, the whole thing with Morgan and how. I guess the reason why he gave up, I still don't buy it as like something that I believe that character would do, but that's the reasoning. That the whole thing is like he gave up the life of his kid to give it a better chance to live, which means that he can't see her ever. Mm-hmm. So, it's just, for me, it's hard to believe, but I understand the reasoning.
Yeah, and then the argument, real quick before you go, Rich, you remember this, the argument that Madison had, because she was like, well, you don't know what it's like there. They're training these young kids to fight, And I'm like, that's not a valid argument. You do need to defend yourself. We saw that in Walking Dead proper. They were training these kids early on.
Mhm.
This is the world you live in now. That makes perfect. I don't see that as a negative. I'm sorry. I unless they were like either just breeding these, if they were just asking for young girls and then just breeding them, that type of thing, that would be horrible. But that's not the case. They're training them to be warriors. And
Yeah.
I don't think, and then of course then those would be the next batch to go out and to find others and bring them in and stuff. I don't honestly, I don't see anything wrong with that, and I didn't see an issue with what Morgan was saying and Grace. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. You guys live in the swamp. You'll look dirty, and you don't have a home. Your home, if that's really where you were living in that houseboat, it's already under muddy water. There goes that. So, Rich, what did you think?
So let me just make this comment. I agree with what you said, Carlos, that it doesn't make sense for Morgan to be this type of character. And I say that because last season, the whole storyline was that, Victor Strand became an enemy to them. And he actually had Mo. So that entire season, Morgan was going through all these obstacles just to get Mo back. So only for us to get to season 8, and now it's going to be the same storyline again, where he has to now try to do what he can to get his daughter back. So that's why I say I'm disappointed, because it feels as though they have run out of ideas for this character. And let me also say that Morgan also isn't too intelligent either, because earlier in this episode, when he found them, that was when he was supposed to get back to Padre, but he stalled in that process. So you saw when they finally caught up to them, because Grace made the call, they said, oh, yeah, your services are no longer needed, Morgan. And that's why I say, yeah, you mean to tell me he didn't think there was going to be a consequence because he didn't do what they said when he found them in the earlier in the episode? I mean, it didn't make any kind of sense. So this is what is leading to him now having to do what he can to get back closer to Mo. So we'll see what happens.
And that's it. That was the other part. It was like, all right, your service no longer needed. But it's like, well, what was he getting in return? What was the exchange? Like, what that houseboat? That come on now. What were you giving him? And the whole thing with Grace, is she with him? Are they still together? I guess they're still together, but then they decided to stay there.
So let me go ahead and make a guess, because this is the final season, right? We know that Morgan and Grace, when they first introduced Grace on this show and they showed that she had this bond with Morgan, I'm sure there were a lot of fans out there rooting for this couple to work. So what I'm going to make a guess is, now that they saw that the Mo has grown up and they both want to get back close to her, they will also get closer together themselves throughout the season, so that by the end they are one big happy family if they survive. That's what I think this is all leading towards. But we'll see about that. But I do want to say that it feels like it's disappointing for the standpoint of, I can kind of get an idea of where this season is going to go. Obviously, there could be some twists and turns in the storyline. We still need to see who Padre is, and I hope that the revelation of whoever the hell Padre is interesting, because this person has
right. Hey, there we go. Gotta be.
I have no idea. This person has a lot of power, though, so I want to see who this person is that they have been building up, because again, we've known about Padre for quite some time. This isn't.
And they said, and the teenage girl, when she was telling the story, she said Madison fought with Padre and almost killed him.
Yeah.
So it is a person.
So that's why Madison is still alive, because she has the intel. She knows what it takes to take him down. By the way, I will add this last point in, because I got triggered with that last comment. You made the comment. You made the comment about her fighting Padre before. So earlier in this episode, when Morgan was supposed to, bring back Mo, he was also supposed to kill Madison, right? And he did it. So when they finally catch up to them, I don't know, man. I'm just saying, if you know that these people are a potential threat, I would have killed Madison and I would have killed Morgan, because now you know that they're going to try to rebel against you. That's why I say it didn't make any kind of sense. Because
it's disbelief. There's no way. Yeah. I mean, this was the same issue that we had with Victor Strand last season. He had so many opportunities to kill Morgan, and he didn't. He did it. He was like, no, I'll just let him go back. It's like, for what? Just end it. That's it. If you're saying he's such a nuisance, it's like, oh, he's always interfering and everything and ruining,
Yeah,
then kill him. You had him.
that is another thing. It's like this whole group of ruthless assassins, but they're also nice, kind
Yeah.
of.
Yeah.
So,
But it's interesting, Rich, because you see something that I don't see that way. Because at the end, when they left, and he says, well, at least we know where she is and how she looks now. And she looks all right. We've got to see her. And then Grace's like, yeah, that's what hurts. I didn't want to see her, because now we see it. But they didn't give that hint of like, shit, now we got to go get her back. It just seemed like they were just like, whatever.
Well, let me stop you right there, because right after the episode ended, they show us a preview of what to expect this season. And in that clip, Morgan's talk about, I need to assemble an army to take out them. So I'm assuming he's talking about PADRE. So that's why I said, I that's the path I think this is headed towards. Because again,
so is
at the end,
this where Rick and Michonne are going to show up?
No.
Oh no, they're gone. We're probably not going to get that show until 2024, so we won't get no answers on that until next year.
Yeah. It's so early on with that, but no. So we might as well. We're getting close to the end of this. So then, once they bring them back, now it's almost full circle. Now we see back with Ren. She's going back into the little fighting area, but this time none of the gear on. She just grabs her weapon, and the teenage girl is there, and she's like, you got us in trouble, or whatever. She's like, don't worry about it. She's like, I got this. And she just grabs it, goes in there, and just kills this thing. She kills a walker, puts it down, and that's it. Stern face. Teenage kid is like in shock, and it's like, oh, wow. And that's it. And of course, you got the post credits and all that stuff. But that, it didn't tell me. It's like, all right, this is why I felt like this could have been the beginning and the end for the whole thing. Because one, we know what happened with Mo, right? Because that was a big question. What's going to happen with Mo? Well, now we know. Madison got captured. They're doing testing on her, taking blood once a week. Don't know why, but it doesn't seem that anyone else cares. Morgan and Grace seem to be okay with all of this because they let her go back. It would have been different if they had a change of heart and then had a little altercation, but it was too many of the people from PADRE, and then they like, shit, we got to fight to get her back. No, it's like, all right, take her. Oh wait, I got fired also. Oh, then let's go. Now we don't even have to stay in the swamp anymore. So it just seemed like this is it. This would have been a good ending, because what are we going to expect to see? Like you saw in flashbacks, oh, Morgan is going to want to go and fight. For what? For what? Because clearly, unless your situation has changed, you're still in the same bad situation of living in the swamp, pretty much homeless because your houseboat just, sank. What are you doing? You're going to take her to do what? That it made no sense unless he finds the other people, unless we know, because we don't know. But remember, we don't know what happened to those people, because when we did when they showed the 7 years ago when he was being interrogated, they talked about people they found on the boats. They didn't find everybody, and maybe now that those 7 years have passed, maybe he does know where some of those people are. I mean, clearly he knows where those groups are, or else where would he get all these kids that he's kidnapping or transporting to PADRE? So I'm sure he knows at this point where some of them. Wouldn't be surprised if Victor Strand is a leader of another community somewhere. They pull one of those things, and he's gathering an army because he feels bad for all the kids that he helped bring over there, and now he wants to get them back, like a Peter Pan situation. No, I don't. I don't know. That's not good enough for me. That's no.
Well, let me just make this comment and say this. Obviously, at some point, we will find out more about the other characters that are on this show. There definitely has to be some changes with some of these characters. One character that I do not expect to see is Charlie, because clearly she was dying at the end of last season. So there's no way she should have survived. So I don't expect to see her back, but this is still in the Walking Dead universe.
Oh, yeah. Anything's possible.
They can do anything.
Remember, Daniel burnt up in a house. The whole house caught fire, and he was strapped to a chair, and he still survived. Madison, same thing. Baseball field, fire everywhere, a bunch of walkers. She was cornered. There was no way to get out of that. Well, somehow she did. She's out. You know, I mean, it's TV land. It's like a novella. Same thing. People wake up. They're like, "Oh, we found her in the woods. She has amnesia." Oh, well, she left because she went to do a movie, and then she came back, and it's like, "Oh, it's always something." So they'll try to squeeze it, but yeah, this wasn't that entertaining with all of this. It's this. I know they wanted to throw in some twists and stuff, but then you throw in a twist, and these twists don't really progress the story. It ends the story. I
agree. Like I said, though, we'll see what happens in the next the next couple episodes. I want to see where they're going. I mean, the only intrigue that I have, honestly, is I want to see what happened with the other people that were on this team, because clearly they have been doing something for the last 7, 8 years, whatever. So I want to see what happened to those characters. So that's what my interest is in, but we'll see. But overall, not the strongest opener for the season, but it definitely gave me more questions. So let's see what they do as far as answering those questions.
Like I'm looking up. What, there's supposed to be 16 episodes, right? Is it 16? 8? Or is it just 8? I think that, man, I'm trying to find out.
That's a good question. I'm not sure. I thought they were going to be double episodes too, so they can end it faster.
Because, well, they're
sure.
taking a break. That's the thing. We're going to have another mid-season break that's going to go into next year. Yeah.
Again? Until next year?
Yeah.
Oh, hell no.
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure I saw they were going to do a break, and during that break is when we're going to get Dead City. Okay, it's during the break because Dead City starts sometime next month.
Yeah, it starts towards the middle or the end of the month, so that's fine.
So I think this is a 8-episode season. All right. What about, while you're talking, Carlos? What did you think? I'm going to look this up.
On the split, this mid-season finale stuff.
Well, just this final episode, just the ending of this episode. Like, did it make sense to you? The whole thing.
I mean, it's not going to make sense, but to be fair, a lot of stuff's not going to make sense to me. But, you know, I don't know where this is going. I don't know how everything is going to shake out. I can't predict anything at the moment. I'm just confused like you guys are. How the hell is Madison getting away with all of this? You know, she's beating, almost killed PADRE, defeated 12 guards, kidnapped Mo or Ren or whatever they're calling her, and you know, compromised a lot of stuff. And now it's like, oh, coming back, gave more blood. So it's like, I don't know.
I just want to say, I don't know. I just want to say this. I don't know what the long-term plan is as far as them ending this show. But I do want to say this. I do believe that Madison needs to die at the very end, because
of course.
Then she can have her reunion with her kids, you know, because they're both gone as well. So I think that character, there's no reason for that character to live past the season, but we'll see what happens.
All right. So from what I'm seeing here, it's 12 episodes, and it's going to be split 6-6.
Okay.
And the total is supposed to end at the end of this year. So maybe we get a few episodes, and then the summer comes, and then they're gone, and then toward the end of the year, they come back. At least that's it. There's no return date, but it's definitely going to be after 6 episodes, they're going to take a split. And I'm assuming that's just to give Dead City its time.
Yeah. Dead City and the Daryl show.
Yeah, whenever the Daryl show. Because, I mean, here's the thing, people. This is all crunch time for all of them, because some of these things were delayed. Because the Dead City, that wrapped last year sometime. Remember, they were sending out tweets, we're done. So unless post took months and months and months, and I think that's also only like 6 or 7 episodes. I don't think that was a bunch of episodes for that one.
And by the way, it is worth mentioning, I don't really know what the status is of the Rick and Michonne show, because there is a writer's strike that's happening now. So if they are still writing that season,
that was, from what I heard, that script was already written. That was done because
it is
the actress, I'm blanking on her name, but the actress that plays Michonne, she was part of that writing team.
Yeah. Okay. I was making sure they finished it.
Yeah. She was part of it. So, and that was the early part. I remember when I was looking for updates, and I was all right, that's done. They just haven't started filming.
Okay, all
and
right.
there was no date, so that shouldn't be an issue. I mean, if anything's possible, maybe they want to do rewrites and stuff, and you can't do it because the writers aren't there or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that should be okay now. For anything else, I don't know, but we know Dead City, that's done. The Norman Reedus, from what I understand, that was also done, and that was hinted. And during Talking Dead, the last Talking Dead, and they were talking to Norman. He said, "Yeah, toward the last days of set, where he was on a horse and it banged into a wall when he was giving that story." So his stuff is done, and I mean, we'll see how it pans out, but from what we understand, if anyone's wondering what's going on with those things, this is one of those situations where there's short seasons, but it's more of just to gauge people's interest. It's going to be different elements. As you know, we got some runners are no longer walking dead, they're running dead in Dead City, and that carries over into Norman Reedus' show when he's over in Europe. And they're going to have different stories, but just to see if people are still interested in this type of material, in this universe, and see which one sticks. Because if it does, then those shows can come back with more episodes and just keep going. If not, then they're one-offs.
I'm pretty sure the Negan show will get a second season. We'll see about the others.
Yeah. And then, of course, you know, Jeffrey Dean Morgan, he's going to be on The Boys. And before everyone said, "Oh, well, he already got a permanent role," there. We don't know that. He could just die in that season. You know, yeah, I mean, it's like it could just be a guest star role type of thing. So I don't know. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see, people. But this is it, man. This is the final season of Fear the Walking Dead. We knew it was going to happen. We knew eventually it was going to happen. There was hints that this was going to be the last season. Remember, there was that one report. Someone said, "Oh, I heard they're filming the last season." We didn't know that, but I think what it really came down to is that they wanted to see the numbers for the viewerships, and no surprise, the numbers have been dwindling. They've been going down, and that usually happens with any show, unless you're like ER or Grey's Anatomy. I feel like people just keep watching those things, and it makes sense because it's a hospital type show. People come in and out, but for this, there's only so many places you can run to and move in the sets and different scenarios, and I get it. That's why when we had to discuss one time possibilities of where this franchise can go, and we're like, well, outside of the US, right? They have to go outside, go to other countries, see how are they handling in new locations. And that's what we're getting with the Norman Reedus, and that's what we're getting with Dead City. Because yes, the Walking Dead mothership started in Atlanta, Georgia, in a city, but it was empty. It was like it looked like a soundstage almost, because there was like nobody around. And from what I understand, that's not going to be the case with Dead City. There's going to be a lot of extras, there's chaos, there's all kinds of stuff, and then of course we're going to have plenty of runners, you know, the walkers running around everywhere. So the environment plays a big part and can really freshen things up. And I think that's what they're hoping for, because we had all these years of Walking Dead proper in the woods. I don't care where they said they were. Oh, we're outside DC. Oh, you're always in the damn woods. You're always in the woods. It all looked the same to me, right? So we will see. We'll see where this goes. Any predictions? And I'll just get mine out the way. I predict Strand is not in PADRE. I swear, if they have it that he is PADRE, I'm gonna flip out. And then they come up with some stupid story that he killed the guy that was there and now took over, and that's why we don't see him. He's a mystery man. Ta ta ta! I did it. I take over everywhere I go. If they do something like that, that would suck. But I have a feeling that he is probably has his own community. I have a feeling Daniel probably has his own community. And this is going to be sort of like you said, Rich. It's going to be similar to last season, the sort of finale, when Morgan was trying to gather up all the groups so they can all go fight Victor at the tower. This might be the same thing. If that's the case, gather all the survivors. All right, we're going to go attack this island, and we're going to free all the kids. We're going to get all the kids back. Maybe he goes back to all the communities where he took the kids and from their parents. Like, guess what? Remember that place he told him I put them? Turns out it's pretty bad. So let's all go and fight them and bring your kids back. You know, sorry, my bad. I don't know. That's my prediction. What about you, Rich?
My prediction is that this season might end rather disappointing, similar to Walking Dead. Um, it really depends on the direction, but I kind of feel like if the storyline is just about Morgan and Grace getting back to their daughter, I'm not really sure if that'll be enough for me, but we'll see what happens. But I'll give them the benefit of the doubt with the premiere, but I definitely want to see what happens in these next couple episodes.
Mm-hmm. Carlos?
I don't have much of a prediction, to be honest. I don't know. I don't know a lot of the dynamics, so I can't really see where some characters are going as opposed to others. The whole PADRE thing is still all really fresh and new to me, so I'm not sure. I'm gonna I'm gonna go with the flow of the show and see where it takes us. But hopefully hopefully we have a little bit better episodes. I do feel like some of the parts on this show, uh, I wasn't a big fan of, sort of the action and the suspense. I felt like it wasn't done that well with Mo being in the stuck in the mud and all that stuff. I don't know. I just felt like that scene
Well,
was a
there was
little
no
bit
suspense.
lackluster.
We know it's too early. There's no way they're gonna kill Mo off this soon. There's no way. Just the fact that they did all these big reveals so quick and within this one episode, which is why I felt like, oh, there's a beginning and an end. They could have had that Grace situation not even be part of it. It didn't need to be part of it. They could have just had next episode. Morgan shows up at the tower and then we see her there and she's like, oh, what was all that commotion? I saw you out there. What happened? And then he tells her, and then get that emotional moment. It just too much happened in this episode, too quick.
Yeah, so we'll see what goes. I'm you know I'm I'm in open eyes, or what do you call those?
You have an open mind to everything.
I
You're
have an
just like,
open mind.
all
Yeah,
right,
so
there you
we'll see
go.
where it goes.
Yep, and so that's it. That's our review and coverage of Fear the Walking Dead season 8, episode 1. Remember what they took, and we all remember they took our love for the show. That's so far what they've taken. Yeah, because this is it. This is not what I expected. This is not what I expected. I expected a lot more, just chaos, and instead now we know what we know. So we'll see. Hopefully it goes for the best, and we get some surprises, and it becomes an entertaining final season. So that will be it. So thanks again, people, for following us over on YouTube, over at the Koalition. Thanks for following us over at Spotify, which I'm still surprised the numbers keep going up for the follows. Thank you for that. I really thought we were going to see a big drop, especially on iTunes and stuff. Show mothership gone. People were like, I don't want so spin-offs to unfollow. But that didn't happen. That didn't happen. So thanks a lot for everybody. And then a lot of people checking out the back episodes just to know what's going on, because they don't feel like spending an hour or two watching all these damn episodes. It's just too much. Just too much. All right. And we will be back next week for episode 2. So thanks again for the support, everybody, and peace.
Peace.